incredible. So thank you so much for making it. And I'm sure they have a lot of questions. So maybe let's start quickly by introducing who you are and your part in the movie, and then we open the floor to the question.
Yes, I'm Antoinette Hertsenberg, the editor of the movie.
And I'm Linda Stoltenberg, and I'm the director of the movie.
My name is Schouten, and I did the research for the movie.
Okay, and you all work for a TV channel, or that's correct, called Rada, is that correct? And it's well known in the Netherlands. All right, anybody wants to ask question about this movie and what you just seen, which is real? It's not. It sounds incredible, but it's real, and we need to talk about it. And it's also happening, not just in Europe. I talk with all of you, and you tell me also in the US, and still today, every day, women get operation and get this thing in their body that they can't take it out.
Yeah, I got a question. Supposing you need a mesh, or you need an implant, or you need a pacemaker, what should you do? I mean, it looks like the mesh is bad from what I'm gathering, but, you know, is there a way to get a safe product? And how do you know if it's safe?
Is there an alternative?
Well, there's basically no real way of knowing it, because your doctor is also relying on the authorities to have tested the product. There's basically no way of knowing it. You actually have to hope that the manufacturer did his work properly and did some tests, but it's not required to do any tests. Well, actually, the older the implant is, the more experience there is about the implant. So if people ask me this question, then I would say take the oldest one you can find, because then you have more experience from your doctor with this product.
And do some research yourself. Look at reviews on the internet, like what Carl Henneken said in the movie. If the people of the notified bodies just had Googled it, they would have found lists of complaints. So that's something you can do yourself. So try to do some research and see what experiences there are with this product. That's the only thing you can do. But just don't only trust on your doctor, because it could be a real nasty experience.
Yes, please.
The politician that you interviewed in the piece tonight, she said that if other European countries were more aware, they would be more likely to do something quickly. Has there been any progress in the European Union to change the rules?
Well, there is some progress, but it's going extremely slow. There is a new regulation already out there, but it takes, in the most optimistic scenario, it takes 4 years for that new regulation to become effective. And the new regulation is slightly better than the current one, in the way that it asks for more stringent systems, for example, in the classification system of some devices. But the basic system stays the same, whereas you can put an implant on the market by substantially equivalence, so proving yours is the same as one already out there on the market. So it's going extremely, extremely slow. Also the awareness, because that's the basic problem with the story. I mean, it's so difficult to grasp that this system is so rotten on so many levels that it's just too big of a thought to grasp, you know? So we really need to explain the story over and over and over again. And then people ask us, really? Is it that bad? And then we have to say, yes, there is really nothing which there is that you can trust on. So, yeah, I'm sorry guys, it's a tough message. Yeah, that's how it is. But I think it will take time, and other journalists are aware of it, and some doctors are also aware of it. But there needs to be a lot of change in a lot of different levels, also with doctors.
Before new medical device.
What was speaking? Okay.
Here. Before a new medical device put on the market, is there any clinical trial required?
No.
That's the thing. That's the difference between drug, you were
Drugs,
saying, and medical device.
Yeah. No, they can just rely on the documentation of devices before the new device. So if it's an equivalent, like we explained in the movie, then you just need the literature, and that's enough. Even if you make not exactly the same device, because we made 8 of those arms, which is more harmful for women than 4 or 6. But that was okay.
Yes, please. Yeah, so for me it's very strange that, like drugs, it's not permanent as implants. So why is there so much difference between the legislations for drugs, which you can stop taking, and implants, which you will have in your body?
I know, it's
Yeah,
really shocking.
That's actually exactly the question that I asked when I went to take the course in what you saw in the movie, where I took the course for the crash course for manufacturers, how to put the device on the market as fast as possible. So I asked my teachers when I was pretending to be a manufacturer, why is it so easy actually? Because if you look in drugs, I would have to do a lot of trials and testing, and it would take me years to do that. And then they said, well, that's an easy question, because in devices, no one really dies. You have some people that get crippled, maybe handicapped, maybe come in a wheelchair, but no one really dies. So why test? Because, yeah, it's not really necessary. And also, he said, an implant or a device you can take out of the body again, whereas with drugs, it stays in the body. Now, in the case of this mesh, it's not true, because it gets totally intertwined with the fibrotic tissue, so it's impossible to take out. But this is how they think. They think, well, in death, and if it's beneficial or not. And it's that simple for them.
How did the healthcare insurance show them, the healthcare insurance companies, like you said, and stuff like that? Is it more expensive? Did you have some thought that it's more expensive to treat those people who get crippled, or to have the more research? Because they're the beneficiaries of the fact that if it's more cheap to do the research and get this stuff off the market, that cripples them.
The research should be paid by the manufacturers, and the care is paid by the health insurances. That's different.
They're the beneficiaries. If they could push the legislation more, if it's their advantage.
That's true. Yeah, they should.
They're powerful in the branch, so they should be the ones knocking on the doors.
They could be very helpful, but there's another problem. If you have a mesh inside and you want it to be removed, I think there are a few doctors in the United States, one of them is in LA, they try to remove it and they do their utterly best to get it out, but in the Netherlands it's not possible at all. They won't help you, they won't pay for you. You just have it in your body, it's hurting you every day, and you just have to live with it. That's it, end of story.
And if you pay for it yourself?
It's when you go to LA, I know because we did some fundraising for one woman. After we did a report on her, she had a mesh. Her doctors didn't want to treat her anymore in the Netherlands, and we felt very responsible for her because we did a report. So we did something very strange as a journalist, and we don't do it every day, but we did some fundraising to send her to this doctor in LA. And it was a hell of an operation. It costed 60,000 euros, which is a lot of money. And they found out that the mesh she was having in her body was circled around her bowels and was shrinking, so it cut into her bowels. So it's just unbelievable in the Netherlands, with such good healthcare we have in the Netherlands, that they just close their eyes on these women. I can't believe it.
It's really you did an amazing job. I mean, you discovered really a very explosive issues. I mean, yeah. So thanks so much for the job you've done. Nicole, you wanted to ask a question?
I'm from Germany, and I always assumed when something has TÜV on it, it's like approved, that it's tested over and over and over. And,
TÜV geprüft.
and so living in America, I'm always a little bit afraid of any devices or anything. I always think, they are not as good as in Germany, because, you know, that's where the real regulation. I'm completely in shock.
Yes.
Like,
TÜV is super.
but I have a question also, like, in the movie, it says that at least here with the FDA, some of it is, how do you call it? It's publicly accessible.
Yes, the right to information. Yes, we don't have in Europe.
So here we could actually do the research and request more information.
Yeah, not always so easy, but in Europe you don't have the access.
It's crazy.
But the system is basically the same in the States. You just call it differently, and there's more data accessible as a journalist, which is great. If you look for it, you can find actually some information about the device. But basically the system to get an implant onto the market here in the States, it's the same. It's the same system.
Thank you so much for making this movie. This is a total shock. And I've never heard this before.
Are the devices with medical imaging? Are you able to find them once they're in the body? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, it depends on the device. Are you talking about the mesh?
Either the mesh or any of the, are devices visible with medical imaging?
Well, in the case of a mesh, sometimes you can. Yes. Sometimes you can see it. But I don't know for all implants. I'm not a physician. I'm a journalist, so I don't know really. But in the case of the mesh, you can see it. But the problem is that it gets. This is how it was designed. It was designed to be working as a hammock in the pelvic area. So it works like ivy. The fibrotic tissue is growing in between the tiny holes in the mesh. So it gives support for the weakened tissue.
But then it gets hard. It gets hard like concrete. So, and then it's shrinking. So it gives a lot of tension in the body. And that's basically the problem. And that's why it takes 10 years, because then it's shrinking so much and getting so hard. And sometimes just turning around. So you can imagine that in a very delicate area of the part of a woman, it can hurt just awfully. And it's happening with new devices as well, because now we have also in the United States, the FDA just announced some news about Assure, which is a method of sterilizing women. Half of the women in the Netherlands who get sterilized now is by this method, which they place little feathers. No,
it's like
spirals
a
in the woman uterus, and then they can sterilize. But also, this was not clinically tested before it was on the market.
One last question, and then we have to wrap up. There was one. Juanes, you want to ask a question?
I want to know why is this installed and why does it fix? What's the illness that this mesh?
What? Sorry.
What is
the condition you're talking about. It's called a pelvic organ prolapse. It happens when Paris women, after a while, the tissue weakens in the pelvic area. For example, after giving birth, and then the organs can drop literally, down, like through the vagina or the anus, which is not very pleasant. Before this mesh was introduced, there was a classical operation to just sew the fibrotic tissue together, and this mesh was invented to help to put the organs in place while giving support in this area.
It happens a lot, eh?
It happens a lot. One out in 4 women get to deal in her life.
Yeah.
Yes, with with this condition.
Thank you so much to you for your job, for your work. It's incredible. Thank you. I don't know if there are some journalists in this room, but you got the message. And if you know any press, please spread the word. This is a scandal, and we really need the world to know about it and stop this. So thank you very much. Still.